There's always been some really cool secrets that are in Geometry Dash that I personally have a lot of interest in looking at and seeing how many, behind the scenes stuff there is still inside the game that we are able to access. And sometimes it's just some weird things that we can't really do much with, like some unused images or unused songs or something like that, where Robtop was just wanting to add that to the final game, but then decided to not do so, but forgot to remove the sprite or the image or the audio or whatever it is. But sometimes he just leaves them inside the game, and there's actually a very secret way to access those things. And today we're going to be talking about a lot of these things because I find it really interesting. One very small example I want to start with is that the Gauntlets, there is actually a hidden restart, but not restart, it's like a refresh button right in the corner here. You can only access this with, external things. If you kind of modify your game through an external source, then you can have like a refresh button just like this one, right? But it's a bit smaller so that you can actually refresh the Gauntlets. But this is, it's there, but it's invisible basically. The things that are really interesting are in the editor. There are things that are not available through these buttons in here, but there's still a way to get them. Objects that are, I like to call them unlisted objects because you can't access them through here. But sometimes they can actually be really helpful. And let me just give you a small example. Let's just say I wanted to have a rectangle. That's a triangle like this, for example. And then I wanted to give it a cool white glowy outline. So what I would have to do is add these guys, right? Like this. But then you can see that it looks absolutely cursed because this line kind of goes beyond it. And the reason for that is so that you can just draw a diagonal line like this without having to use these guys. These guys were supposed to be used. I'm gonna show you right now. So I like to go to this level, which was made by Colon through like a code or something. But this one basically shows you every single object that is in Geometry Dash, even the ones that you can't access, like everything pretty much. And if we go back here, we can see the slope, and there it is. We have a it looks very similar, but you can see that if I paste it in here, we're gonna have a slope that looks like this. And if I add this one, you can see the difference. This one's kind of cut right there, and this one still has it. And you can see that this one is the old one, and it fits perfectly in here. So that was the way to do diagonals. You had to add this line and then this small pixel. But Robtop decided to just add this to make it easier for diagonals. However, now, if you want to do this, that's no longer possible, which is why I like to go back and actually use that old object. This one, if you insert it in here, looks much cleaner. Now all you have to do is simply just, scale these guys down like this, and my god, this looks so much better than the previous one. The previous one felt so wrong. Boom! This one is, imagine if it was like this and then like that. So much cooler. So yeah, that is one thing that you can like kind of take advantage of these unlisted objects. And honestly, if you go to any 1.9 level that is really old, basically it's gonna use these guys. You're not gonna find the newer ones, so you can also yoink it from there. And what I find really interesting about these guys is that there's something about the GD editor that if you want to select an object but you don't really know where it is, you can simply click on it. So for example, let's say I put this guy, and then you have to first deselect it. So now it's selected, you have to actually deselect it, and now I click on it without having anything selected. You can see that it automatically just selects this one. So if I unselect it and then go here, and then I like, where is this block? It just takes me straight there. However, what would happen if you actually do this for the unlisted objects? Let's try it out. You click and then nothing happens, like literally nothing, because this object, it's nowhere in here. You can see that if I click on this one like that, it's basically gonna select it right here. So this is the new one, and if I select, this is the old one, nothing happens. But what's funny is that you can still place it. So it's selected, but it's not visible. You can't see it, but it's still selected. That's really cool. And of course, with 2.2, a lot of new stuff came out, and a lot of new unlisted objects that I would like to show you guys in this video that I've never seen anybody talk about. But if you like this video, make sure to slap that like button, because I might do an episode 2 where I show you guys even more stuff. So a very interesting thing is that, let's say there was a square like this, and then you kind of wanted to have it kind of like, let's say, add a circle like this, right? But you don't really want it to be, this is like way too big outline. So what you want to have is basically maybe something like this basically, but it should be like completely circular so that if you copy and paste it, it actually looks like a circle. So this is an object that I really need, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people need. And what's interesting is that this used to exist in Geometry Dash 2.2. So in here, these are like still in the game files. So you can see the speed changes, you can see a lot of triggers and stuff. And up there, you have these very tiny objects that were actually available in the Geometry Dash private server, the 2.2 private server. And you can see some edges, you can see these guys, those guys, you know, this one is like a ring, and this one and that one. Boom, these guys, you can also make like a ramp with these are like really small objects. And there it is. This is the one that I was talking about. And you can just instantly just make a circle with it like this. So that was also one object. And there's also a small radius. Boom, I think this is a hexagon, a stair, like that. Boom, very cool. So yeah, though I have no idea where these objects are. I think they are very necessary. I mean, Robtop, I think he added them, but then he, like at the last seconds, he decided to make them unlisted or just completely not available. We're not sure. But yeah, I think it is very nice and interesting to think about, because I believe there was a completely new tab in here that basically allowed you to select those objects. These are like completely different objects that cannot be found in here. Or maybe maybe I just haven't found them yet. That would be so embarrassing, bro. Imagine if they actually existed and I'm like, these guys don't exist. That would be very funny, but I don't think so. I mean, there are so many objects, it's pretty much impossible to scroll through all of them. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I am very confident they're not available. But they're still in the game file, so that is very interesting. And what I find really interesting about Colon's level is that it basically shows you the update progress that Robtop was working on. It basically shows you what he added first, what he added after. Maybe you can have like a broad overview of his thoughts while developing this. So for example, here we can see, so all of these guys are 2.1 objects. So those are like the final 2.1 objects that were added. And in here, you can see that the last 2.1 object that was added is my boy over here. And the very first 2.2 object that was added is this bush right there. So this is the very first object that Robtop decided to add. And the one after it, he added it, but then he decided to remove it. So we don't have it. And then he decided to add the reverse trigger that basically allows you to go backwards. This was like back in 2017 when these awesome previews were coming out, and we were really shocked that the player is now able to go back. And then of course, camera controls, you can offset, you know, static. These are for like Sub-Zero. So the random trigger, of course, he pretty much made a preview video for all of these triggers, which is now looking at it very cool. Then those guys were added, and then he started adding some random stuff and bushes again. And then there came the song trigger, time warp, and afterwards came the swing copter and the end trigger, which is yeah, that's for the next video. But you can see that a lot of objects were still not used. So yeah, I find this really interesting. And the fact that you can see there were about 2000 objects in 2.1, and 2.2 added all of these. That's like 2,500 more objects. And by the way, the last object that was added to Geometry Dash is this one. It's this save thingy. That was the last thing. Okay, I think I was wrong here. I think I messed up a little bit, because you actually have to go from bottom to top. So the first 2.2 objects was actually the random trigger. Okay, so 11. Okay, I'm really not doing so good on my math today. Okay, so the random trigger was added first, and then the zoom stuff, and then the reverse, and then this bush. Okay, so the bush is apparently not the first object. I'm sorry guys, it's actually the random trigger. And yeah, the swing copter was added first, and then the song, and then okay, that makes sense. But yeah, you guys can check this out for yourself. And yeah, let me know what you guys think about this topic. I think it's really interesting. I might do a part 2 where I show even more unlisted, very cool objects as well. So make sure to slap that like button, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section, and I will see you guys in the next video. Make sure to also slap that like button and click the video that is on the screen. Bye bye.